right, we're going to be talking about cylinders, finding the volume and the surface area of a cylinder. So first of all, there are two types of cylinders that we're going to be working with. We're mainly going to be working with a right circular cylinder, and so that's basically it has a base that is a circle, and the height is at a right angle to the base. So it looks like just a regular cylinder, you know, like a can of food that you would get at the store. An oblique circular cylinder still has a circle as the base, but that height angle is not a right angle. It takes kind of like that cylinder just got moved all the way over like this. However, and the height is a little bit different, but the deal is these have the same volume, which is kind of cool, just because it's just like you took the cylinder and moved it over to the right. It still has the same volume. So the definition of a cylinder: it has two parallel, congruent, so the same, circular bases. So here's a base, and they are circles, and they're connected by the height. And the formula for the volume, we'll start with volume because it's a little easier, is the base, the area of the base times the height. When this B is a big B, an uppercase B, it's standing for area. So this is saying the area of your base times the height. So it's basically the area of this, or and then how many of those bases are stacked on top of each other. Here's another. You could say it's the area of the base, big B, times the height. Well, and then the area of the base, it's a circle, so the area of the base is pi r squared. That's the definition. That's the area of a circle times the height. So all of these are the exact same formula, just written a different way. Just a reminder about how to use the formula before we get into our examples. Number one, write down the generic formula. Write down volume equals base times height, or write down volume equals pi r squared times height. That's going to help you memorize the formula as well. Number two, identify what parts that you know or that you might need to find out depending on the problem. I know the radius is this. I know the height is this. Number three, plug in what you know into the formula. Then do the math, do it correctly, and then answer the question, and just remember to answer whatever they're asking. It might be asking for the volume, it might be asking for something different, and remember your units. All right, let's go ahead and do example one. Example one, find the volume of the cylinder at the right. So we have a cylinder. I know the radius is 3 and the height is 10. So I'm going to start by writing down the formula. Volume equals base times height, which equals pi r squared times height. Now I know that the radius is 3. I know the height is 10. That's really all I need to know. And I'm going to plug in what I know. So pi r squared is 3, so 3 squared times the height, which is 10. Now I'm going to do the math correctly. I got to do my exponents first. So 3 squared is 9. 9 times 10 is 90. So I have 90 pi, and that is my exact answer because it has all of the digits of pi in it. So 90 pi, and then volume, so my units is inches cubed, or I could say cubic inches. And then if I wanted to approximate this, I would get my calculator, and I'd say 90 pi is approximately 282, I'm going to round to the nearest hundredth, 0.74, and I'll write cubic inches here. So here's my exact answer and my approximate answer. Example number 2, find the volume of the oblique cylinder. Well, let's see. My volume is still base times height. That hasn't changed. Let's see. I need to figure out my radius. Well, this is really my diameter. My diameter is 14, therefore my radius is 7. This value here is 17. I do not know my height. Well, in order to use this formula, I need to know my height. Well, I know that this right here is a right triangle. So I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem to find out what my height is. So my Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. My leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. I'm going to plug in what I know. 7 squared plus my height squared equals 17 squared. 49 plus my height squared, I don't know what 17 squared is. 289. My height squared is 289 minus 49, which is 240. And I'm going to find the square root of both of those. My height is the square root of 240. Now I could go a couple ways from here. I could keep this as its exact answer, which is finding like the perfect, or simplifying the square root, or I think in this case I'm just going to approximate it. And so I'm going to find the square root of 240, and I'm going to approximate it to be 15.5. So my height is approximately 15.5. Now I know my radius, I know my height. Now I can go ahead and find the volume. Volume equals base times height, pi r squared times height. Pi r is 7 squared times 15.5. 7 squared is 49 times 15.5 is 759.5 pi. Now this technically isn't my exact value, even though it has pi in it, because I rounded my height. So it really doesn't make any point for me to keep pi in my answer, since I already have a rounded answer. So I am going to go ahead and round this, 759.5 times pi, which is approximately 2386.0304. And I could talk about significant digits here with rounding, but I'm not going to. Oops, and that is not centimeters squared, it's centimeters cubed. Ooh, that's a terrible 3, because we're talking about volume. So that would be my answer for volume. So, important thing to remember for volume of a cylinder, volume equals base, the area of your base times your height. The area is pi r squared, so it's just pi r squared times your height.